Dan, you say GitOps and multi-cluster networking are key features for an IDP platform engineering solution. Can you tell the audience why are those two important? And
Well, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
Go
you
ahead.
off there. Yeah. So in the book, I talk about the two core architectural components of an IDP, in my opinion, of both GitOps and multi-cluster networking. Now, GitOps, because it is a framework. DevOps is a philosophy. It's not a framework. And I would say GitOps is a framework for DevOps philosophy. So GitOps gives you the ability to declare in Git both your applications and your infrastructure. And so GitOps would mean that you have a platform that is monitoring what's in Git, and it'll deploy what's in Git, and it'll make sure whatever it deploys stays true to whatever that source of truth is in Git. The other thing that Git gives you, it gives you a complete audit trail of everything that happens within the system. So who changed what and when. One of the biggest concerns that a lot of CIOs have that we talk with is cloud spend. And one of the biggest areas in cloud spend is infrastructure drift, meaning let's say your team builds out 20 clusters and they're all 2-node clusters in Amazon and everything's working hunky-dory, but somebody decides to double the node count in each of those. They could actually go in and do that, and basically, unbeknownst to you, until you get your next bill from Amazon, Azure, or whomever you're using, your cloud spend just doubled. By declaring your infrastructure or using GitOps for your infrastructure, you can mitigate that drift, because let's say in that example, you had all those clusters were declared to have 2 nodes, and somebody logged into the console and changed it to 4, for example. Whatever our platform or a GitOps approach would revert that infrastructure to whatever you have in Git. So it would not allow those changes to take place. And lastly, it's really it's natural for an automation environment as well. Like you could tie GitOps functions, you can abstract them in things like Jira or ServiceNow. So for example, let's say somebody does say in that example, I want to double the number of nodes in my cluster. They can make the code changes. It could go through your whole Jira process, but it would have to be approved by somebody with the authority to do that. And let's say that you did have that pipeline in place, they approve it. All those Git functions could be done under the covers for that person, meaning they don't need to know anything about Git. And so you would change it in Git. Nobody would log into a cluster. Nobody would log into a console, change anything about the infrastructure, but the platform would see that change and it would implement it. And so it's great for that automation and auditability. Multi-cluster networking is required because if you're going to manage an ecosystem of Kubernetes clusters or any cloud native environment, you're going to need to have essentially a control plane across them. And so in the ebook, I talk about establishing a layer 7 overlay network. So it's not a physical network. You have physical networks in place, but what we do is in our platform, we establish a layer 7 overlay network from which we can have GitOps tools like Argo CD manage all the applications deployed to all the clusters. We use like Crossplane to manage all the infrastructure that we build, or we provide like Grafana, a single Grafana dashboard that can span that control plane and basically give you a single dashboard for every cluster in your application network. So GitOps, multi-cluster network are absolutely essential.